So when last we left off, we had just finished building this application, which basically uses the overall screen size, the width of the screen to determine whether or not to reformat its layout. When the screen is under 900 pixels, basically it shows up in this format. And when it's over 900, we basically relay it out so that some of the content appears on one side and the other content appears on the other side. This is normally not how this application would load if we just had a basic Xamarin Forms application, like how other native applications that are not designed to support the dual screen work. They basically lay out fully on across the whole screen, and the gap where the hinge is located basically blocks out some of the content. So it's obviously difficult to use. It's really not usable at all because it doesn't just reflow or it doesn't treat the screen as if there are two screens touching each other, similar to how if you use dual screens on your computer work, where literally as it's going out of as it's going off screen on one screen, you're seeing it show on screen on the other screen, and to a certain extent, there's no gaps in content. You can sort of see everything, even though it's not visually pleasing to you. You can see everything. In this case, there actually is a gap, almost like there's a part of the screen that's disappeared. It treats it logically like that. And I think there might be some reason for it. I don't know. You'd have to ask the experts. You'd have to ask Microsoft what that's about. But this does not do that. So that's interesting because this is actually doing that by itself. It's just sort of like switching off by itself. Okay, not sure what that was about. But basically what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take it one step further. So what we did before was sort of like a brute force way of doing it, but of course there's a lot of information. It just did it. I'm actually not controlling that, just so you guys know. It's just kind of doing that by itself. But yeah, there's what we did before was this sort of brute force way of basically just measuring the screen and using the measurements of the screen to determine how to show the content, similar to how web pages basically reflow. We've built something a little bit we built something responsive, basically. And there it goes again. Very, very interesting. I've just, I have a whole other series where I talk about the, the Service Duo and some of the issues associated with it. And so if you're also watching that video, here is yet another weird thing that happens. If you also are following that series, here's another weird thing that happens with the Duo. Right. So back to what we're talking about. What we're going to do now is we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to gain a little bit more insight by basically setting up and using the SDK that's designed specifically for the Surface Duo to build out an application and see some of what Microsoft provides, or this SDK provides, to help to understand what is going on with the application. Now, bear in mind, as we do this, that this is using the Surface Duo SDK, right? So this would not necessarily work on a phone or a device that is not the Surface Duo, right? I'm not sure what Microsoft is doing behind the scenes to enable this. I'm assuming that they are somehow plugging into some of the native capabilities, that are built into their device. But just bear that in mind, that if you were to start using these APIs, you'd basically be locking your application into essentially running on the Surface Duo. I don't know how it would work on another device. And as a matter of fact, we can test it out to see what happens when you actually put it onto another device and see how that works. Right. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to create a new project. Um, and this, it's going to be a Xamarin Forms Android XAML app once again. Again, the other side of that too is demo Surface Duo SDK. Okay. The other side of that is that usually when you're using Xamarin Forms, you're interested in building out an application that is cross-platform across multiple platforms. So with Xamarin Forms, your application can run as a Windows, universal Windows application. It can run as an iOS app, and it can run as an Android app for both tablet and phone. So just bear that in mind as you're adding whatever SDKs that you add, that they might not be available on the platform that you're running on. In the case of of the in the case of this particular device here, this device obviously is an Android device. And there's obviously no folding iOS device. So I'm sure that in that scenario, you'd really be thinking about it in terms of, screen size, which is the first version that we did. So let's go ahead and let's start off. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go over to NuGet and basically get the Surface Duo SDK for Xamarin Forms. And it looks like I have not updated Xamarin Forms, or the template does not have the latest. So I'm just going to quickly update it. And I need to do the same thing here. Just update it. Okay. So waiting for that to be done. Perfect. So that's just updated. This is neither here nor there. It's just something that needs to be done because it wasn't available. So what we then need to do is we need to download the Surface Duo SDK that's been created, or the Duo Screen SDK that's been created for Xamarin Forms. So this is a Duo Screen SDK. Just want to make that clear. So I don't have I don't have a Galaxy Fold, but I would imagine, since it doesn't say specifically Surface Duo SDK and it actually is it says dual screen, I would imagine that this applies to at least both the Samsung-based devices and the Microsoft-based devices, since those companies are sort of in cahoots to a certain extent. So I would assume that. I do know that Android does not have any hinge dual screen intrinsic capability built in. So, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. Tune in as we find out more for where that's coming from. But the NuGet package that you're looking for is Xamarin Forms dual screen. Okay, right. So as it says here, so this basically just adds two-pane view, dual screen, Xamarin, it adds basically a couple of controls in there and a couple of classes that give you event handling capabilities for devices that have hinges. So we're going to install that. And we also need to go to the we also need to go to the Android project and do the same thing. So Xamarin Forms dual screen. Okay, and I believe that should be done. So we are up and running, and we have the dual screen um, components set up on both devices. Then we need to go in here on both projects, sorry. Then we need to go in here and we need to add some capabilities. Basically, we need to initialize the dual screen capabilities. And I've actually have it somewhere, so I'm just going to copy the code from there. There we go. And that is that. And then let's build this and let's just run it as it stands now. Of course, as you know, this does not have any kind of any kind of layout management at the moment. So when I run this, it is going to fall back to that old approach of basically spanning both screens. So you'll see how that looks when you know when the code to make it do this isn't there. Okay, so this is now loading, and there you go, it's loaded. So here's the default basic approach to, I'm sorry, the default screen for these projects. And so when I actually set it up like that, this is how it shows up. And that is very strange, what is happening there. But yeah, this is how it shows up. And as you can imagine, there is a big border between those two things. So this does not look, basically imagine the half of the X and the whole entire A all the way up to the M are missing. That's where the gap is, right between those two things. So not a good look. All right. So let's see what we can do with this application that we have now, with these new capabilities that we have. So let's go into our project. And over here, I'm going to create a new label right underneath here. This time I'm going to give the label a name. Okay. I'm once again going to poach my previous code. And then I go in here and I will add the using that's needed. And okay, so this is taking its time, so I'll just redo it. There we go. Okay, so what this is doing, I would presume, is it's basically checking the hinge angle. And so what I'm going to do is on the hinge angle change, I'm basically going to display it. Actually, maybe I'll do it like this. There we go. Right. So one of the things that you can do that obviously we could not do before is check the hinge angle. And that is loaded now. Okay. So it's showing 178 degrees because believe it or not, well, not believe it or not, but the device right now is not fully flat. So I'm going to try to make it as flat as possible. There, it's now fully flat, 180 degrees. So as you can see, this is pretty nifty. Right? This is literally changing as I'm moving the screen. Um, and the reason that that is happening, the reason that it's switching into that mode is because I've now hit, I basically hit the point. I guess it's somewhere around, um, I guess it's somewhere around, well, let's see what it is, right? So now it's back to dual screen. So let's start moving it to see when this actually does the switch. There, somewhere around 240 degrees. Somewhere around 240 degrees, this thing just says, hey, look, you are, you no longer need to use it as dual screen. And the only way to bring it back, it fully rotates 360 degrees. The only way to bring it back is to get it back to um, about, so this is wrong. Oh yeah, no, it is right. To get it to 180 degrees. So that's super interesting. I like that. So let's play around some more and see what else we can figure out. So what I'm doing now is just beautifying it just a bit because it was sort of misaligned. There we go. Okay, so I think we're in a good place now. So let's see. That's interesting. The way this works, uh, I can see why it's a little bit glitchy because the hinge angle calculation is not actually based on the turning of the hinge angle. It's actually somewhat based on, or it's got a little bit of give to it. So right now, what I'm doing, I'm not actually turning the surface. I'm not actually opening and closing it. I'm just tilting it. I'm rocking it sideways, right? And basically rocking it from side to side uh, somehow triggers the, changes to the hinge angle. Minor changes, mind you, but changes nonetheless, right? So if you have anything that's just a little bit on the sensitive side, I mean, this is going from, so it's at 180 degrees and I'm holding it straight up right now. Um, you know, so it's relatively sensitive, right? So just keep that in mind if you're doing anything with this, because obviously anything I would say plus or minus 20 degrees, right? Because I'm seeing some 170, I'm seeing some 190, right? And it's 180. So plus or minus, so plus or minus 10, right? 10 degrees, or 15 degrees, uh, is, could throw this whole thing off. I mean, you could just be kind of like moving the phone around, and not actually opening or closing the hinge, and that may have an effect on it. So just keep that in mind. So this is just a quick video showing how the flow that we described. This is the same application that we built. Basically, it's a multi-screen application that we built for the Surface Duo, and I just wanted to show you how that application looks when you use a Samsung Galaxy Tab. So a basic tablet. Let's open this guy up. Right. So as you can see, it's the same app that we previously built. Basically, welcome to Xamarin Forms using Xamarin Forms. And what I've done here is I've enabled rotation on this device. And what you're seeing here is that, again, when you have it in portrait mode, the width is probably less than 900, so it's not splitting the screen. And then once we switch it to landscape mode, as you can see, the screen is flipped, and basically it's being shown as two parts. So as you can see, even when you have one consistent screen, you can still build your applications such that basically it launches in two different screens when it makes sense to be that way. Obviously, having it like this and having it look like the form, having it be laid out in this manner, but basically be stretched out like this is not an ideal use case for when the screen is in landscape mode.